In this video I will be debunking the 6D DC argument that some people have recently started to believe. The argument revolves around the dimensions of DC. In DC there are 6 named dimensions, and people mistake these for being spatial dimensions when in reality that is false. In actuality, these dimensions are realms, or planes of existence that allow the DC multiverse to function. Mr. Mitzi explains the dimensions of the DC multiverse in a way that is pretty easy to understand. I simply can't believe that people actually don't understand this. It is clear that people are purposely taking this cosmology out of context in order to downplay it. The dimensions of DC are not the same as real-life dimensions. They don't correlate in any way. Trying to compare the two is pointless and is basically appealing to reality considering they are completely different things. Mitzi says that the first dimension is a point. He also says that the second dimension is a line. I can't believe I actually have to explain this to people, but the first dimension in reality is not a point, and the second dimension is not a line. If the second dimension was a line, then shapes like squares and circles wouldn't exist. This is why I don't believe people are legitimately misunderstanding this. It's obvious people are trying their best to hate DC as much as possible. Mitzi then explains that the third dimension is material stuff. Any number of spatial dimensions would fall into this category considering the nature of them. If they contain space, they must logically contain material, otherwise they would be aspatial, and that would be a contradiction. Moving on to the fourth dimension. In DC the fourth dimension is time. This is referring to the time stream. The time stream is a realm that contains all times that exist across reality. It exists above the multiverse and is stated to be beyond time and the confines of dimensional space. This extends all the way to things such as hypertime, which exists at the sphere of the gods level. Hypertime is essentially a collective web of time streams and every reality in DC. The fifth dimension is stated to be imagination. I wouldn't think I should have to explain why imagination is not spatial. This is self-explanatory. The fifth dimension is an omnipresent force across creation in DC, is imagination itself. And the fifth dimensional links such as Mitzi and Batmite are virtually omnipotent in comparison to the DC multiverse. Mitzi then explains that there is a hidden sixth dimension, a realm that exists beyond the fifth dimension that is only accessible to the most powerful beings. This would mean that the sixth dimension is beyond imagination, imagination in DC being capable of imagining everything that exists within the multiverse. Scott Snyder has also confirmed that he views these dimensions as something different from real-life dimensions, and agrees that they are beyond normal dimensionality. Now let's take a look at how many spatial dimensions are actually in DC. There are statements of higher dimensionality, infinite dimensions and inaccessible planes in DC, before you even reach the fourth dimension, and Grant Morrison has stated in the past that DC universes work in brain theory with recursive isomorphic dimensions. All of this would mean the third dimension contains infinite amounts of spatial angles, layered realities and reality over fiction transcendences. It is explained that higher dimensions view lower dimensions like a comic book, and even if you wanted to lowball the living hell out of DC and say there is a finite number of dimensions, there are statements of 8 and up to 11 dimensions, not to mention the 6th dimension is not even the last layer in the cosmology. Whoever argues that DC has only 6 dimensions hasn't even bothered to do an ounce of research or pick up a DC comic in their life, and I should congratulate them on completely failing in geometry and physics.